Right, everybody. Thank you for coming today to the 2024 to 25 assessment instruction presentation. I know today is a busy day for all of us with grades due, and there's a bunch of other meetings happening across campus. So thank you for taking the time to attend this session. Today, we're going to focus mainly on the updates to these instruction guidelines, but not going to go too in depth on the other parts of the report. I'm going to leave that up to y'all to go review the instructions on your own, but I'll talk about that later in the session. So just to get started, some contact information. I'm Claire Villarreal, the Assessment Coordinator in the Office of Institutional Effectiveness. You can email or call me at any time. And then we also have my director here today, Catherine Lowry. She's also available for assistance with assessment or other IE things like Curriculog. So getting started, the most important thing today that I want you to take away with is that we have instructions and our resources on our website. So I'm going to go to brief info commercial mode. Our website is usm.edu/institutional.effectiveness. We keep everything there. We have it all. So we have accreditation information for those who use accreditation. We have this assessment tab where we keep all our assessment information. Can y'all see my screen still? Okay. We have this academic assessment tab here, which lists all the assessment instructions. So we have the program level instructions, the analysis template. We even have some compliance rubrics, what I'll go over later. We have some example action plans and closing the loop, which is new, that I'll also go over. If you work on the GEC report, we have it here. We have miscellaneous resources regarding assessment, including some measure and target examples, some learning outcome examples. And we keep all our past presentations here. So if you ever miss a presentation, we typically upload at least the slides here. So this is especially helpful if you're new. We have that Program Coordinator 101 information here as well. Some of these resources might be slightly outdated because Weave has gone through some updates. So cosmetically, it's a little outdated, but content-wise, it should be the same. And then finally, we have this assessment showcase section, which highlights from 2010 to 2018 different parts of the assessment report, like SLOs, measures, targets, action plans, and those sorts of things from all different programs across the university. Also, we have social media. So we post those videos to YouTube, like recordings of the session. We post different upcoming events on LinkedIn and things like that. We also have a calendar where we post due dates for upcoming things. On the Weave tab, we have all information about Weave. So if you've forgotten how to log in, you can always go here. It links to the login page as a reminder that due date. And then also under resources for Weave, there's different navigating Weave resources. Again, a little out of date cosmetically, but still the content is still works. You'll still be able to navigate. Also, if you're looking to download your Weave reports, so Weave itself is a little hard to view. You can download the reports in a page format that makes it really easy to read using the downloading Weave reports. If you follow those instructions, you can download those reports. Do you have any questions about our website before we get into the meat of today? Okay. So as a quick reminder, because it might have been about a year before since you've gotten into Weave, you'll complete your report in the Weave assessment platform, and you'll log in using that USM code. You won't log in using your USM credentials. Also, as a reminder, your project or your template for 24-25 is already there, so you'll not have to create a new report or a new project. It'll be there for you. Real brief, show you what that looks like, because Weave has gone under some updates. So as a reminder, under the login page at the very bottom, you have that login with your institution sign-on. And then you can use that USM sign-on. It doesn't matter if it's capitalized or not, as long as you're logged in your browser. So the biggest update with Weave is that this dashboard is very colorful now, and there's a lot
Huh.
happening. You don't have to worry about anything happening on this page. You just have to worry about your projects, which are still up here under my work and then projects. and you should still be able to find your reports as usual. If you can't find your 24 or 25 report, let me know. If you're a new program, as of this past academic year, gone through council, it might not be there yet. Also, if you're a part of our reaffirmation reports, and we haven't finalized the modifications for our SAC COC report, then the 24-25 report has not been made yet. Otherwise, your report should be here. So if you cannot find it, just let me know. Okay. So now getting into the 24-25 instruction changes that we have. So we made a few changes to hopefully streamline this assessment process this year. So as a reminder, a report is required to have the program description and summary, student learning outcomes, measures, targets, findings, an analysis of those findings, action plans, that analysis document attachment, and then you have to change the project or report status to complete. So the big changes this year are with the analysis of findings, action plans, and that analysis document. Everything else stays relatively the same, so I'm not going to go over those components. You can find details about those components on our instructions on the website page that I showed you. It details exactly, how many student learning outcomes, what they should look like, all those sorts of things. So again, see the report instructions for details on any of these parts. So starting off, changes with the analysis of findings section. So before, any analysis of findings were inputted in Weave with that arrow under the analysis section. So you'd have to put analysis for each finding. We're doing away with that this year, so you do not have to put anything in that section. Instead, we have modified the analysis of findings document to include analysis of findings section. So analysis of findings for all findings for every measure will go under this one section. So previously, there might have been some findings where you didn't really have much of an analysis to put. So this kind of alleviates that, or instead of having to maybe repeat information, or maybe you didn't have much of an analysis for certain findings, like if they were met, now you don't have to worry about putting a analysis for each finding. Instead, you can just focus here on what's a true analysis. So again, instead of like repeating the findings, you'll just be able to put everything here. Do you have any questions about that part? Okay. So because we freed up that analysis of findings space, there is now room to move that findings down to the analysis section if needed. And a lot of programs are already doing this because that findings section has a limited character count, which is pretty small. So if you had to disaggregate your data, you usually ran out of space and had to go to the analysis anyway. So now we just have that space blank for everyone to use if needed. So you can enter your findings within the finding box, but if you run out of room, you can also do it in that analysis of findings. I see we have a hand up.
Yes, sorry, I wasn't fast enough. Yes, so before, under the findings, that is where we would say, 67% received the grade, blah, blah, blah. So they met required target or something like that. So
Right.
so now what you're saying that we will take each SLO and we will just summarize them under that one heading for each course. I mean, for each SLO.
Right. So for the analysis of findings section, that's going to encompass every SLO and every measure just right here. If you need to, you can like make headings and kind of separate that out. But it might be that, they're repetitive in the sense where if you use like one measure, like an exit survey, then the analysis might be similar for all of them. So instead of having to repeat that under each findings, you can just summarize that here.
Okay, but I would also then go SLO, whatever, and then 70% met. So target is met or target is not met. So I would also list that at this location.
No. So this
Okay.
analysis of findings is only for the analysis of the data. So still in Weave, you have the target findings, and there's usually like a drop down for the target to be met. So all that information is still staying the same. The only thing that's being moved here is that analysis portion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm glad I asked. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay. So with that, the findings being, or the analysis being moved and the finding options being kind of expanded, there's a couple different ways you can input findings. We've thrown in a few examples. It's not a one size fits all, so your program findings might be disaggregated a bit differently here. But this is just an example. So here, the findings, the overall is listed in that findings box of the 90% or 90 out of 100 students. And then in that analysis, is disaggregated by fall and spring. It might be different for you. You might include everything together, fall and spring, which is fine as long as the semesters are indicated. So you might not even use that analysis box. Or you might have a program that is offered both online and face-to-face. So instead, you could disaggregate by those locations within the analysis itself. So different ways you can use those two boxes. I see a question.
All right, real quick. So it's very possible to just leave the analysis blank when it's redundant.
Yes. Yes. So previous years we said try to put something there always. Now we're saying you don't have to put anything there. You can just use the analysis of findings in the analysis document.
Yeah, when they're exactly the same.
Right. Or just in general, like you can just put the analysis of findings in that document. You do not have to type any true analysis in Weave. Does that make sense?
I think so. What I'm simply asking is that under the finding right here, it says 90%, 9 out of 100 students, blah, blah, blah. And then
Mhm.
analysis, Hattiesburg. But I think you seem to saying that if the analysis and the finding are the same, then you don't need to, you can leave the analysis blank here. But you're saying, but in the other part, you can do the analysis for the finding for the whole thing where it's at.
Yes.
Am I understanding correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I know it's confusing when the titles of things and the
Yeah.
description of the thing are the same. Um, okay. So another thing that's changed locations are the action plans. So this is what the action plan looks like before in Weave. You could have either put it in Weave like this or in that analysis document. So moving forward, we're asking that you don't include it in Weave and that instead you just go ahead and put it in the analysis document. Something else, the analysis document used to break down all those action plans and the closing the loop into multiple sections. We've also gotten rid of that. So now it's just all consolidated into one action plans section. So we also include a template. So you can see the title, affiliated outcome. So if it's like SLO1, the program objective, or if it's for the program in total, you can put a due date in there. It can be an academic year, a semester, a specific date, any kind of time period like that. The status is like in progress or completed. The description is the action plan description, so what you're going to do. And then if it's an action plan that's already been started in a prior year, you might have any updates. So you can include updates here. Or if you finish the action plan, you can include those results and that analysis called closing the loop. So again, the action plans have been moved and consolidated from Weave and from all those sections into one single action plan section. This template, you can feel free to like copy and paste to include more action plans, or if you only have like one action plan, I just provided two templates so you can delete one and do it that way as well. Any questions about the action plans?
I had a question, going back to the findings. Are we are doing findings for summer as well, if that pertains to our program and the outcome, the learning
Yes,
outcome. Okay.
you do include findings if you have it for your program, and you can choose which semester, like following or leading for the academic year, as long as you stay consistent. So it might work better for your program, if you use summer, fall, spring instead of fall, spring, summer. As long as every Weave report follows the same semesters like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions? Okay. We've also provided some example action plans and closing the loops using this new template on our website. So here you can see 3 different options from 3 different programs at USM. These are all taken from programs that they'll be used in our reaffirmation. I just put them into this new template so you can get an example. So they're all a little different, but they all have the same similar components. So here you can see like the due date is really specific. Some other ones, the due date is a little bit more vague. You'll also notice these are all closing the loop, so these are all completed action plans. And so they provide some good examples of what those can look like because we usually get asked what a good action plan and closing the loop would be. So I noticed things like they use data from previous years, they explain the impact of their action plans, those sorts of things. So I'm not going to go through each one individually, but they are available on our website to look at. Okay. Next, we have the program analysis, which was part of the analysis document. And so this one's been a struggle for a lot of people about what to put here, or do you put what was in your Weave report? So we just got rid of it. We've changed it to make it additional information. So again, there's no program analysis, it's just additional information. So what you put here is anything that's applicable to your program, that's important for context, that didn't fit anywhere else in the Weave report. So for example, sometimes programs change modality or have really big curriculum changes, but there's not really a place to mention that. But it is relevant because the future Weave reports are going to look different. You can put that information here. Also, this section is 100% optional this year. So if you don't have anything to put here, you can just put NA and leave it blank. Do we have any questions about that part? Okay. Next, we have that program completion impact section. This is still going to be there this year. We didn't scrap that, but it is going to look just slightly different. So this past year, we had the narrative and those action plans separate from each other. So we just consolidated that again to narrative and action plans. Because sometimes people, it's kind of one and the same a lot of times. People would talk about it and include their actions at the same time. So again, that just is a consolidation, but that information is still there and still required. I guess before we move on, do we have any questions about that analysis document, any part that we talked about? Okay. So just going to go into some tips and tricks before we wrap up. Something to be mindful of is that the Weave report is considered technical writing. I know sometimes people get lost with the writing of it, but just remember the B's: be consistent, be concise, and be mindful of spelling and grammar. These reports are read by other people, both in my office and by the undergraduate and graduate councils, program review committees, and then by SAC-COC. So as concise, consistent, and mindful as you can be makes that process a lot easier for everyone. Even future faculty in your school, they have to go back and read this. It's very helpful when it follows those technical writing skills. So for example, of being concise, we still want you to explain, but concise is okay. Like there's no need for, I guess, that fluff language or writing. I know that writing can come across pretty cold, but it's fine to be very, data statistical here. Be consistent. Sometimes people like to call something by a different name, and sometimes in different writing, that's encouraged not to use like the same name over and over, but to use synonyms. Here, it's perfectly fine to use the same thing every time. So for example, if a measure is an essay, you do not have to call it an essay, a paper, a written assignment, and a final paper. Just call it an essay, and that's fine. It can get confusing if you use multiple words for the same thing. And then finally, just be mindful of that spelling, grammar, or typos. This comes up a lot, especially with numbers or dates. So if you accidentally get a year wrong, sometimes we have to reach out and ask, did you mean like this year, or is it truly this other year that you're referencing? So just double check those things. Also, like I mentioned before, we have that evaluation rubric on our website. So this is what we give to the program review committees of the graduate and undergraduate council to use when looking at all these assessment reports. It encompasses all the instructions just in a rubric format. So here you'll just want to, the goal is to hit compliant, that third column. And if you do that, then you follow the instructions that we have in our documents. So it's a multiple page rubric. It covers the within Weave that assessment plan, like the program description, the student learning outcomes, measures, targets, and findings. And it also covers that analysis document. So the analysis of finding action plans, those action plan updates, the additional information, that program inventory review. So if you're not sure if you're missing a component, you can always go through this rubric checklist and make sure you have everything here. Do we have any questions about any of this before wrapping up?
Yes, I got a couple of questions here. You mentioned about the action plan. We used to write like action plan, one action plan for every section. So we used to write 5. Now all those 5 are going to be consolidated into one place, right? In the end.
Right, so they'll be moving from Weave, the program, or in the old analysis document, those different sections, they'll all be going under one heading now.
How many action plans we need?
That's really up to the program. We request that everyone have an action plan at least every other year, or when like the findings have not been met. But it's program by program, really, how many you may have.
So we need like a one action plan, new action plan every other year.
Minimum, yes.
Okay, the other one, we have made some extensive changes to our program, the forensics program. We used to have one title, forensics, with 4 different emphasis area.
Mhm.
Now, all those are going to be consolidated and separated into 3 distinct IHL level majors.
So for any either consolidations or elevating an emphasis, that's something
Elevating. One, that's just the name change from CJ to CSI. The
Yeah.
other 2 are becoming a distinct majors, like forensic biology, forensic chemistry, and then the third one is the CSI. The question is, do we need 3 view assessment, or just one for the entire program is sufficient?
Yes, you'll need for the elevated emphasis, you'll need a separate assessment report for each program.
So it's
And
going
that's
to be
something
3 now, 3 like IHL level 3 majors, CSI, forensic biology, forensic chemistry. So we need to write 3 distinct action plans, one for each major.
right, and they'll be in separate reports now.
Yes, you'll have, each IHL program requires a Weave report. So you'll have to develop 2 new plans this
Okay.
coming year. And
Right.
so you would not have 3 reports this year. You would have
Right.
1 report this year with
Right.
plans in place for 3 reports next year.
Correct. The new plan is going to be effective coming August.
Right, right. So for 24-25, you'll just do it the way you always have done it.
Okay.
And then we'll have to get back with you in the fall and work on developing 2 new assessment plans.
Okay, right. The other last question is the minor. We didn't so far we didn't write any assessment report for the minor. Since the names of the major and minor are a little different, do we need to write an assessment plan for the minor?
The rule of thumb for minors, if it's a standalone minor, which means it would have a unique zip code from so we'll probably need to look and make sure
Okay.
where we stand with that. But
Gotcha. The CSI major and the forensics minor, they do have the same zip code.
so we'll probably be okay there.
Okay, so we don't need a separate minor, assessment plan for the minor.
Again, we'll double check, but typically if the minor and a parent program share a zip code, we're okay. It's
Yeah.
when they're unique, that's when we have to develop a minor assessment plan.
Okay. One of the new measures, the CSI will share the same zip code with our existing minor. We didn't change that one.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a general question. So this is being recorded. Will you
Yes.
send this video to the participants? I'm having a new coordinator. Though I obviously am going to be doing this year's weave, but I wanted to involve that coordinator and maybe let her see this video.
Yes, I'll be sharing this with all of you who signed up. So you'll be getting that email in the next day or two.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I just want to clarify,
You cut out a bit.
later over what? Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. I'm the coordinator of a pathway versus a program. So what we've done in the past is report that on the same report. I just wanted to clarify if there were distinctions, because the statistics will look different, that I would just need to specify in the action plan of which pathway the
Yes.
action plan applies to, and there might be two separate ones, like
Right.
for each pathway.
Right. If it only
Okay.
applies to one pathway or like emphasis within a plan, like an assessment report, you can just specify that's for that specific emphasis or pathway.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Right. So as a reminder, we've, as always do in September, it's traditionally September 1st, but that's Labor Day this year. So instead, it's going to be that Friday, September 5th is when it'll be due. So again, September 1st is a Monday. Instead, we're doing the due date September 5th, that Friday. And that due date is also included on the instructions, and then posted on our website as well. Well, I'll leave it open for any final questions, but other than that, thank y'all for coming.
I do have a question. You know, I'm always good for at least one. I want to go back to what was asked because I thought that was a good question, and I'm trying to make sure I understand it for my program. We changed. We took our program out of one parent company and made it into separate programs. So we got the PhD program and we got the EDD program as, you know, their own program. Do I need to do, and then we have the EDS, which I didn't get to, but we'll do that this next coming up. So do I need to do three weave reports the following year, or do I need to do that this year? Or do I need to do that at all? And maybe I misunderstood what was going on.
So honestly, I think your program, we had already separated. We treated you as a unique program, even though you were technically an emphasis. So I don't think anything will change for
Because
the ED.
it seemed like it was one report for all three that we did.
Yeah, and that's fine because
That's fine? Okay.
it's the same zip code. It's just you did the EDS, EDD, and PhD into one report, if I
Well,
remember correctly.
that
Is that right?
that is absolutely correct. But
Okay.
the zip code for the EDD and the PhD have been changed. They're the same zip code, but they're not the same as what they were before.
Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah, no, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And like it's, go ahead.
I was just all three will share the same zip code. It's just we're going to change that zip code.
Yes, and going back to the question that was asked, is there any of that since it went through Curriculog this year, like just recently, does that impact the September report or does that impact the report in the future?
It won't.
If it was to impact anything.
No, it would impact the next year's naming conventions. That's it. I
Oh,
can't, yeah.
Okay, I got you. All right.
So really that would be the only thing to change is, you know, as soon as September 5th comes around, Claire will just, we'll just give you a new field and we'll just change the name. And I can't imagine anything else will change.
Okay. All right. And I can ask this closer to it, but you know, the EDS was not changed yet. It's still under whatever it was under before. So, but I'll follow up with y'all closer to it.
Yeah, I imagine by the time all that comes around, all three will be in a nice, neat package.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Like it said in the chat box, thank y'all for simplifying this.
Sure thing.
All right, appreciate it.
Okay, I'm going to pipe in. So I'm the Director of Aerospace Studies, which is not a degree awarding program. The only thing we offer is a minor. So is this something that I also need to be doing?
Honestly, I think we should look into it for sure. It's not something that we've done in the past, but we probably should make a get a Teams meeting on the books so we can investigate that.
Okay, and it might be helpful to know that while our curriculum, we're teaching it through Southern Miss, the curriculum is actually accredited by SACSOC under the Air Force's university system. So I'm not sure if that.
Now that we have many programs that have their own unique program specific accreditations, but they still have to follow our SACSOC requirements. So yeah.
Okay. So then the next thing is I am headed out. This is my third and final year with the department. I have a replacement that's coming in, and he won't be here probably settled until mid-July. So should we go ahead and just put something on the calendar now for him?
I think that'd probably be a good idea. So we won't, yeah.
Yeah, just so we don't forget about it.
We don't, yeah. But yes,
Okay.
thanks for bringing this to our attention for sure.
Yeah. Okay, well, in that case, do you guys want to look at the calendar now, or do you just want to reach out to me later?
I'll reach out after the session. I'll send you an email.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, thank you. I
Great,
appreciate it.
thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Are there any final questions? Great. Well, if that's it, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up and stop recording. As a reminder, y'all can email at any time, claire.villarreal@usm.edu, if you think of anything in the future.